"Dad, you gotta hear this." My son burst into the garage like a live wire, face pale, voice shaking. I set down the wrench, wiped my hands on a rag that had seen better years, and raised an eyebrow. "What's up, kid?" He pulled out his phone, still catching his breath. "I heard Mom, she was on the phone, she said she's fed up, that she's running away with Bruce. But first she's gonna take half your business, and..." He swallowed hard, like the words tasted like rust. "She's planning to say you hurt her. She's already telling the neighbors. Aunt Julie too." I just stared at him. I mean, the garage smelled like oil and old sawdust, the same place I'd built him a crib 12 years ago, and now he's standing there telling me his mother's plotting to bury me alive. I knelt down, took his shoulders, looked him dead in the eye. "You sure, bud?" He nodded so hard I thought he might shake loose. "She said it. I swear." I ruffled his hair, forced a laugh I didn't feel. "Thanks for telling me. Now go inside, finish your homework. I'll be in soon." He hesitated like he knew better, then went. I sat back on my heels, staring at the concrete floor like it could offer up an answer. I wanted to believe it was a misunderstanding, a bad phone connection, a joke taken out of context. So after dinner, after she curled up on the couch pretending everything was picture perfect, I waited until she was in the shower and slipped into her phone. Face ID still worked. Rookie mistake. And there it was. Texts. Chats. Some clown named Bruce telling her he couldn't wait to start fresh once they got my business in court. Her laughing about the idiot husband still thinking they had a marriage. Plans laid out like a war map, false accusations, staged witnesses, the works. My chest burned like I'd swallowed a hot coal, but I didn't make a sound. I just stood there in the doorway when she came out, towel on her head, no shame in her eyes. She caught me with her phone, snatched it like I was the thief. "What are you doing?" she barked, voice sharp enough to cut glass. I didn't blink. "Reading your resignation letter from this marriage." She sneered. Actually sneered. "You're finished, Chris. I'll take it all. Business. House. Kid." She said it like she was ordering coffee, like it was already done. I didn't argue. I didn't raise my voice. I just nodded, turned, and went back to the garage. Wiped my hands again. Picked up the same wrench I'd dropped when my son told me the world was ending. The next morning, Susan acted like nothing happened. Flipped pancakes in the kitchen, humming some off-key tune, while I drank my coffee and stared at her like she was a stranger who had broken into my house. She was still wearing the wedding ring I bought her when we were young, dumb, and thought loyalty was a given. I didn't say a word. Not yet. You don't swing the hammer before you find the right beam to crack. I went to work, shook hands with my crew, reviewed blueprints, handled orders like it was any other day. But every nail I drove, every contract I signed, I was building a wall, one she wouldn't see coming until it crushed her plans flat. I spent my lunch break quietly meeting with my lawyer, an old army buddy named Hal. Hal's the kind of guy who wears cheap suits, talks slow, and makes opposing counsel wish they'd gone into pastry school instead of law. I laid it all out, the messages, the fake accusations they were cooking up, the plan to hijack my business. Hal didn't blink. Just leaned back, scratched his chin, and said, "Time to build yourself a legal tank, brother." We started transferring assets that afternoon. The equipment got leased to a new LLC in my cousin's name. The company bank account rerouted to a trust that required dual signatures, mine and Hal's. The office building? Turns out it was technically under a holding company. She never bothered to check that when she played house with Bruce the Brainiac. Meanwhile, back at home, she was already laying the act on thick. Sobbing loud enough for the neighbors to hear. Chris has been distant, so angry lately. smearing my name with crocodile tears while her private texts spelled out the real plan like a how-to manual for sociopaths. By the end of the week, she started slipping into full sabotage mode. Filing incidents with the HOA about loud fights that never happened. Dropping hints to her sister about feeling unsafe at home. It would have been laughable if it wasn't so sick. I kept my cool. Cameras hidden in the living room, the driveway, even a recorder tucked behind the kitchen cabinet. Every fake tear, every whisper into the phone about how close she was to getting free, it was all logged, time-stamped, and saved on a drive Hal called the big red button. Every move she made to destroy me, I let her. I let her dig the grave with manicured nails and a smile, thinking she was winning. Because that's the thing about snakes, they don't check the grass for other predators. They think they're alone. She wasn't alone. She was playing chess with a man who built his life one brutal day at a time, with calloused hands and a brain that never stopped moving. And while she posed for her new future, already picturing Bruce's sweaty little victory dance on my grave, I was building the reckoning. If you are interested in the continuation, like this video and I would be grateful for your comments. New stories are published here every day. Saturday morning, she left early, said she had a spa appointment, the kind that apparently requires full makeup, fake tears loaded, and Bruce waiting in a car 2 blocks down. I wasn't surprised. She'd gotten sloppy. Familiarity breeds contempt, and Susan was practically slipping on her own schemes by now. As soon as her taillights disappeared, I went straight to her laptop. No hacking needed. Password was still the same birthday she thought I forgot every year. Cute. I dug through emails, messenger apps, cloud backups. It was all there, the full manual on how to dismantle a husband like stripping a used car. Emails to her sister, to 2 neighbors I used to shovel snow for, even to a coworker at the firm handling the paperwork. Laying the groundwork, just like my boy had overheard. Susan wasn't just leaving, she was staging an execution with the subtlety of a wrecking ball. False accusations drafted in advance, timed depositions lined up, even a fake injury appointment with a crooked chiropractor to document domestic stress. You almost had to admire the thoroughness if you didn't mind gagging on it. I copied every file, every whisper of her betrayal, onto a secure drive and locked it up. She wasn't just going to lose her game, she was going to drown in the rules she wrote. Later that day, while she was out playing happy hour with Bruce, I know because I tracked her phone, legally, thanks to our family account, I sat with my son in the living room. He kept glancing at me, nervous, like he was waiting for me to explode. I didn't. I just kept it even, steady. Listen, bud, I said, things are gonna get bumpy around here. But you're not to blame. None of it's on you. You just keep being you, alright? He nodded, eyes wide. That kid deserved better than to grow up thinking love meant treachery behind closed doors. He deserved to know what it looked like when a man held the line without turning bitter or mean. Meanwhile, Susan was busy snapping selfies with Bruce at a hotel bar, plastering fake smiles on Instagram like nobody could see the rot underneath. She posted some inspirational garbage about trusting your heart that night. It got 5 likes. I smiled when I saw it because I knew how it would end. Trust your heart, Susan? Sure. Just don't cry when it leads you straight into the wood chipper. Around midnight, my burner phone buzzed. Not a call. Not a text. A picture. It was Susan, tangled up in Bruce's arms in a dark corner of that hotel. Not subtle. Not smart. Someone had seen them, someone who owed me a favor. A picture worth 1,000 regrets. I forwarded it to Hal without a word. By morning, the first legal countersuit was in motion. Wrongful defamation. Preemptive protection orders. Business ownership shielding. And we were just getting started. I didn't hate her. I didn't even pity her. I just saw her for what she really was now, a liability, the human equivalent of a lit match falling into a gas puddle. It wasn't rage fueling me anymore. It was something simpler, something colder. Calculation. She thought she was the storm. But me? I was the mountain she was about to break herself against. And when the dust settled, she was going to learn exactly what happens when you back a good man into a corner and give him no way out but through you. By Monday, I wasn't guessing anymore, I was moving. Susan floated through the kitchen pretending like we hadn't crossed the point of no return. Made pancakes again, like syrup could patch up a battlefield. I poured coffee, calm as glass, while inside me everything was tightening into one sharp, patient knot. "You're quiet," she said, fake innocent, stacking plates. "Long week ahead," I answered, not even looking at her. I think that was the first moment she started to get nervous. She couldn't read me anymore. The man she'd planned to destroy was supposed to be yelling, begging, snapping like a twig. Instead, I was cool. Measured. Unbothered. Because when you're holding the real cards, you don't need to bluff. After she left for work, I met Hal at his office. He slid a folder across the table, thick with documents. "It's all locked in," he said. "Trust accounts impenetrable. Business assets shielded. You ready for the next part?" I opened the folder. Front and center, a formal cease and desist letter drafted for Bruce and Susan both. See, she wasn't just planning to accuse me, she was already whispering to anyone who'd listen that I was unstable, violent, dangerous. Setting the stage. I wasn't going to wait until opening night. I was pulling the curtain down now. Hal grinned the way a shark does when it smells blood. If they push the fake abuse narrative, this letter burns their credibility on arrival. We back it with the security footage you pulled, plus timestamps, plus their own messages planning it. Game over. I signed. Simple, clean. Like signing a check that said, "You're finished." Then we dropped the first hammer, a letter delivered to Susan's sister, her supposed witness, informing her she was legally liable for any false testimony in a civil case, punishable by full financial damages. We didn't accuse. We just warned. Gently. Legally. Effectively. People get real careful when they realize lying can cost them their house. That evening, I didn't confront Susan. I didn't throw accusations across the dinner table. I grilled steaks. I asked about her day. I kissed my son goodnight. I let her wonder when the trap would snap shut. That's the thing nobody tells you about winning, it doesn't always look like a roar. Sometimes it's just holding your breath 1 second longer than they can. Tuesday morning, she got served. A process server with the same politeness as a hotel concierge handed her the stack of legal documents right on our porch. She opened them there, scanning fast, that little wrinkle forming between her eyebrows when she realized this wasn't a divorce petition. It was a lawsuit. Against her. And Bruce. She looked up at me through the window where I sat sipping my coffee. She didn't smile. She didn't wave. She didn't even fake a tear. She just froze. Because for the first time since she started this little war, Susan finally understood, I wasn't playing defense anymore. I was on offense. And she? She was standing on the wrong side of the line. Watching her try to steady herself in the doorway, watching that slow-motion panic seep into her perfect posture, was better than any shouted revenge. It was better than rage. It was pure, cold, satisfying justice. And it was only the beginning. Because while she scrambled to figure out how her easy little heist turned into a battlefield, I already had the next 10 moves lined up and ready to go. By Wednesday, Susan was moving like a woman with sand slipping under her heels. She still woke up early, still did her hair, still clicked around the house in those ridiculous heels she thought screamed, "I'm winning." But the cracks were spiderwebbing under the surface, and the best part was she knew it, and she knew I knew it. That morning, the bank called her. Routine courtesy notification, just a heads up, her name was no longer attached to the business account. Nor the credit cards tied to it. Nor the escrow accounts tucked neatly into my trust. I made sure to sip my coffee where she could hear me from the kitchen when she slammed her phone down and fake casually stormed upstairs to shower. I pictured her splashing cold water on her face, staring into the mirror, realizing she wasn't robbing a fool, she was facing a man who had already moved the goalposts and locked the doors. That afternoon, Bruce tried to call me. Twice. Left a voicemail the second time, trying to sound tough, trying to flex some fake lawyer he knew. I listened to about 6 seconds before hanging up. Bruce was like a junkyard dog that thought it was a wolf. All bark. No teeth. And soon enough, he'd figure out he wasn't even in the fight anymore. I had hell fire off a polite little letter to Bruce's employer too, nothing aggressive, nothing loud. Just a formal inquiry about whether their HR department was aware that one of their employees was involved in a conspiracy to defraud a small business owner. Just asking questions, you understand. No accusations. Just laying out a little breadcrumb trail for the people in suits to follow. Corporate HR types love nothing more than avoiding a lawsuit they didn't see coming. By Thursday, Susan's friends, the ones who used to giggle behind my back at barbecue parties, started ghosting her. Word spreads fast when you're about to be radioactive. Funny how loyalty dries up when people see court subpoenas hanging in the air like storm clouds. That night, sitting in the living room, she finally broke. "We need to talk," she said, voice so small I almost didn't hear it over the TV. I muted the game, turned to face her, leaned back in my chair like a man with nowhere to be. "All right. Talk." Her hands twisted the hem of her sweater, her eyes darted everywhere but at me. This has gotten out of hand," she whispered. "It doesn't have to be like this." I just tilted my head, waited. Let her twist. "We can split things reasonably," she said, desperate now. "I can be fair. We don't have to burn everything down." That was rich. Coming from the woman who spent months laying gasoline at my feet. I smiled, not a warm smile, but the kind you give someone who's only now realizing the wolves they unleashed were never under their control. "You should have thought about that," I said, "before you decided to burn it yourself." Her mouth opened, then closed. No words. Just fear leaking through the cracks. She knew. She wasn't just losing now. She was going to be buried by the fallout. And the best part was, I didn't have to raise my voice, didn't have to lift a finger. I just had to sit back and let gravity do its job. Susan stood there for a moment longer, like she thought there was some magic word she could say to pull the house back up after setting it on fire. There wasn't. There never is. When she finally walked away, I unmuted the game and kept watching. The next week moved like a slow demolition. No fireworks, no screaming matches. Just paperwork, process servers, and the steady, merciless grind of consequences. Susan didn't even try to fake it anymore. She stopped putting on makeup. Stopped smiling at nothing. Stopped clattering around the house pretending she still owned the place like it was her personal stage. She didn't realize yet that the show had closed. That Friday, we had our first mediation session. I wore jeans and a button-up. No suit. No need to pretend. She showed up overdressed, like a woman who still thought optics could win a war after the bullets had already ripped through the walls. Her lawyer looked nervous before we even sat down. Poor guy knew what was coming. Knew he was trying to defend the losing side of a fixed fight. We laid it all out, the conspiracy to defraud, the attempt to manufacture abuse allegations, the preemptive damage to the business. I had receipts, timestamps, text messages, recorded phone calls. Everything lined up neat and clean, like bricks in a wall she couldn't climb. Her lawyer mumbled about mitigating factors and emotional distress. Hal didn't even bother hiding his smirk. We're prepared to go public if necessary, he said. Of course, we'd prefer a quiet settlement. Translation, roll over, or we make sure everyone, your friends, your job, your shiny little social circle, knows exactly what you are. Susan stared at the table, refusing to look at me. Probably hoping the laminate would open up and swallow her whole. It didn't. No cavalry was coming. She was alone, just like she deserved. In the end, she signed. Gave up all claims to the business. Took her half of the house sale, which was less than she thought, thanks to some very creative accounting by Hal and some very real market dips I'd timed just right. No alimony. No backhanded settlements. No dragging me through the mud to feed her broken ego. She walked out of that office looking 10 years older. I didn't feel sorry for her. She made her choices. She built this bomb herself. I just handed her the match. I didn't celebrate. Didn't throw a party or toast the victory with friends. I drove back to my shop, pulled the truck into the bay, and sat there for a minute, engine ticking as it cooled. I looked around at the place I built with my own 2 hands, the place she thought she could take with a few lies and a sob story. Still mine. Always mine. I unlocked the office door, grabbed a cold Coke from the mini fridge, and sat on the back step. The sun was setting, long, slow, and peaceful across the empty lot. For the first time in a long time, the silence didn't feel heavy. It felt earned. A week later, Susan moved out. Bruce disappeared about the same time. Turns out he had his own legal problems brewing once his employer caught wind of a little thing called conspiracy to commit fraud. Oops. Last I heard, he was bartending 2 towns over, trying to keep his head down. As for Susan, she faded. No more Instagram posts about new beginnings. No gloating updates about fresh starts. Just silence. The kind of silence that clings to people who realize too late that they lost everything for a handful of lies. I never raised a hand. Never screamed. Never chased revenge. I just refused to be their fool. And when you stop letting people rob you blind, when you show them that the quiet man they underestimated was really the executioner they should have feared, well, you don't just win. You erase them. I took a sip of my Coke, let the sunset burn into my eyes, and smiled. I wasn't angry anymore. I wasn't sad. I wasn't broken. I was free.